gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for September 15th, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, I'm ready for that silky smooth 30 frames per second in Tales of Symphonia, and regulators begin round 2 of their investigation into the Activision deal. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa from Giant Bomb. Jan, how are you doing?
What's up, baby? I'm good. I'm thinking about making unwise financial decisions like every day, really.
Sure, yeah. I mean, listen, living that, what is it? You're a dink, right? You got the double income, no children?
So, no, because my partner, for some reason, I don't know if this is a teacher thing or she's pulling my leg, but she's telling me, yeah, I worked the month of August and it was my first month teaching. I don't get paid until September. I'm like, do you really not get paid till September, or you're spending some money on the side here?
Yeah, listen. I mean, what Funko Pops would be coming? Strange packages been arriving. Things filled with like little things.
Now that she has a classroom, she can get stuff delivered to the school, and I will never know.
Okay, I think that calls for further investigation, Jan.
I'm like, where this cardigan come from, huh? Where this pair of jeans come from, huh? Huh?
That's right. So we got the Mr. Dink, Mr. and Mrs. Dink situation. We'll have to actually investigate. My wife was a teacher and has stopped. It was definitely interesting. Like, okay, no, they just spread the money out over the summer too, so you still get paid in the summer even though you're not working, right? And apparently that is how that works. So that's nice to still get those checks in the summer. So I'm warning you now. You don't let her pull that fast one on you.
Yeah. Maybe I'll tell her I just get paid by Bombcast hours.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's the way to do it. And then be like, no, the company just sent me this. And then she's like, they sent you whatever little thing. What are you spending money on? What are you worried about? Like,
so I don't go anywhere anymore.
Sure.
Well, that's a lie. And sure. I barely film anything. And at least, the nature of the job now is just a camera has been pointed at me for years now.
Yes.
And I got the itch, Jeff Grubb, to buy a new fancy camera.
Yeah.
And then this is just like a gym membership, right? When you get the gym membership, you're thinking like, oh, I'll work out now because I'm spending money. And
totally.
I'll be incentivized to work out.
Yes, it's the tools. I need the tools to do the thing. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. So my line of thinking is like, oh, well, I'm not making anything lately, and I'd like to make more things inside of work and outside of work. So if I just buy a nice camera, then maybe that'll incentivize me to actually make stuff. And, this isn't what I sound like in my head.
Yeah, totally.
Interested.
That's the little buy stuff for us. Jeff, you have that Canon TI3 you got for your wedding. You're going to use that to make movies. I know you are. Nope, never did. Never did. It's just still sitting in the closet. Get it out every once a year. Also, it doesn't even have the clean HDMI, so I can't use it for this job. So what the hell? What?
Nuts.
I know, it's disgusting. All right. Before we get into the game, let me hear it, Jan. I want to hear it. Let's do it.
I need folks to tell me I do not need a Sony FX3. I do not need this. I don't need it.
Chat, you tell him. Does he really need
Please.
it? Please.
Oh, was that George Lucas? Oh, I guess I'm just going to remaster The Phantom Menace.
Inside you, there is one George Lucas telling you to buy new cameras. Absolutely. All right, before we get into this mess, let's talk about what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news, the catch-up, where we discuss the biggest topics consuming the lives of gamers everywhere, and maybe even bring some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. Hello, Twitch. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. If you are watching on there, hello, YouTube. I appreciate you. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Xbox's Activision deal reportedly set for in-depth probes in the UK and Europe. This one comes from VGC, where they write, it's claimed that the UK competition regulators will expand their inquiry and EU ones will be carried out. EU regulators will carry out an extensive investigation as well. Last week, the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, said its inquiry into the $69 billion merger may be expanded to a second phase due to a number of antitrust concerns. Notably, it said it was worried about the impact the deal could have on PlayStation's ability to compete, given that the deal would see Microsoft gain ownership of the Call of Duty franchise. According to the Financial Times, the CMA is expected to officially expand its antitrust probe this week after Microsoft chose not to offer any remedies to its concerns at this stage. Phase 2 of the CMA's investigation would see it appoint an independent panel to scrutinize the deal in further detail and evaluate if it's more likely than not to result in a substantial lessening of competition. The FT, that Financial Times report, also says that, and then once Microsoft fully finishes filing everything with the EU, which apparently hasn't done yet, I don't know if that's just because they couldn't up until this point, but once they do that, the expectation is the EU's antitrust regulators will also look into this pretty heavily. This is still right where it's been for a little bit. But, you know, we were talking about they were looking at doing the phase 2 of their investigation in the UK. Now they really are kicking it up. And it does still, it sounds like it should still go through. But at the same time, when you get to this point, it's like, okay, maybe it could take a little bit longer. Maybe this is something that is going to take all the way till June of next year. Maybe we are looking at almost another year before this is all finished. At the end of the day, though, the main concern that the CMA says that they're hung up on is PlayStation's ability to compete without Call of Duty. And it just seems like the easiest argument in the world for Microsoft to make by pointing at Nintendo, right? Point at Nintendo. They don't have Call of Duty by, you know, not almost by choice, by the system they made, and they are doing better than they literally ever have. So how can we really make the argument that a company cannot compete in this space without Call of Duty, right?
Yeah, it seems like Sony is trying to play the Call of Duty card way too often for it to actually matter at this point.
Yeah.
Because is Call of Duty available on a platform like Stadia even?
No.
Right? So there you go. Like Call of Duty not appearing on Stadia is not hurting Stadia's performance, right?
Right. Stadia was hurt by a million other things. And like if Call of Duty was there, Stadia would not be doing much better.
No. And has there been this much scrutiny when Sony has acquired any other studios? I know them buying Housemarque or acquiring any of the other studios they've acquired over the past couple of years doesn't add up to Activision, but like the Bungie deal.
The Bungie deal's pretty big, you know, but it's still a couple $1 billion, few $1 billion versus $69 billion. But still, Destiny's big. Destiny's a big and important game.
But yeah, Microsoft pointing at Nintendo and pointing out that they've like been completely fine. Because when is the last time a Call of Duty game has even come out on a Nintendo platform? Was it the Wii U or
I can't remember exactly. I would say there probably was one on the Wii U, but that would just be me guessing mostly. There was definitely one on the Wii, but overall, like, and there's maybe one on like the DS, I think.
Sure.
But like, you know, there has not been consistent Call of Duty support on Nintendo for a while. Although there's rumors that maybe like one of the games might pop up, the campaigns might pop on the Switch soon. That's just not. It honestly won't make much of a difference because Nintendo has cultivated such a different audience. And that is, I think, what Microsoft's best bet is here, is to say, hey, listen, yes, this will make it a little bit harder for PlayStation to compete, but not so much harder that it's impossible. And we have the evidence before our very eyes. And they could do stuff like, you know, you brought up Stadia. Call of Duty's not on Stadia, but they're like, listen, Stadia did have Destiny and some and a lot of games like that. And it didn't work out for Stadia, and it's not because it didn't have Call of Duty or it did have Destiny. It made mistakes and didn't cultivate its own audience. PlayStation has done that and has the capacity to do that. It's going to be able to compete. We know this. It's evident by what they've done over 30 years now. So the idea that this one game is so important is a little bit absurd. Now, all that said, Sony definitely knows that this is a little bit absurd. And they are just doing what they need to do to get a few concessions still. It definitely feels like this still will not be derailed. It's just about getting those concessions. And that still seems, honestly, that seems more likely than ever because the way it's phrased by the CMA and the way the Financial Times is reporting, like, oh, they're going ahead with the round 2 because Microsoft's not offering up any remedies. I think Microsoft's going to be like, listen, you got to tell us really what the consequences are going to be before we start offering up remedies.
Right.
But I think remedies are still very much on the table. And Microsoft, I'm sure, has some ideas in mind. You know, obviously, the remedy they have offered was, we promised to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation for 3 more years after the current deal. And Jim Ryan says that's not enough. I bet Jim Ryan would be like, either if it was a take it or leave it situation, Jim Ryan would take those 6 years of Call of Duty support in an instant, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think this is just them trying to cause as much of a little scuttlebutt as possible to see what they can eke out versus just letting this deal happen cleanly. I do worry that, like, is this at all ever going to backfire on Sony at all? And and then, like, the deal that they wind up getting is less favorable. Like, do they take out Call of Duty completely because of how much, I don't want to say tampering, but like it definitely does seem that like Sony is putting as many speed bumps in the way as possible.
Well, yeah, like that's you might be onto something with like Jim Ryan saying that this is not good enough, and so that deal, we don't even want that deal. And if Microsoft is able to eke this out without many forced concessions, they might be like, listen, if you didn't want what we offered you before, this is our game. This is our game.
Right.
You know, we wanted to keep it on there, but now we actually are going to use our leverage more quickly than we were going to before, and we're going to say, listen, when the 3 years of the contract is up, yeah, you could still have Call of Duty when you put Game Pass on our system or on your system, and I mean, that'll be all the talk so far about like Starfield maybe forcing that or whatever, and all these other Xbox games. Yeah, that was always one thing. This is a whole nother where Call of Duty really could be a major leverage point in those kinds of negotiations to get some form of a Game Pass onto PlayStation. And if it only includes games that are owned by Microsoft and they can't put third-party games onto the PlayStation version of Game Pass, well, so what? It's got Call of Duty. Like, that's a massive, massive thing. So it seems like Sony knows that's where it's headed. That's what they're trying to avoid. But you're right. If they don't sort of, this could backfire on them, and it might force them to be in a corner faster than they expected.
I just think that causing so much of a ruckus about only Call of Duty is aiming very low. But maybe that's like, maybe they're trying to like prod the bear here in that, like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe you guys should have more than just Call of Duty. Maybe we have to release more titles out on other platforms other than Call of Duty, because it just seems so small-minded to just focus on the one franchise versus all the other stuff that they'd eventually be missing out on.
Yeah, and it's it definitely feels like maybe there's some gamesmanship happening here where this is the thing they know is the most headline worthy. It's the thing that they probably, the numbers are big enough to catch the eyes of regulators, and maybe they're just trying to push this deal off by a few months, maybe up to a year, so that they can get another game ready to go from their 10 live service games that they're working on to sort of be ready to replace this or to announce something so that when the deal goes through, and maybe there isn't a concession, or maybe there are some, but it's minor in terms of the future of Call of Duty on PlayStation or the guarantee of Call of Duty on PlayStation. Because even if there is no guarantee, I still think it's very likely most, if not all, of Call of Duty stuff will still be coming out on PlayStation for the very far foreseeable future. But if all that stuff doesn't go through and the deal closes, that's like an immediate, probably stock hit on Sony Entertainment's stock price, right? So if they're trying to like just say, hey, listen, we have things ready to go for the future. We just need a little bit more time to get them ready to show off. They can maybe have that stuff timed and ready to go. So once the deal does close, well, who cares? Look how much we are investing in SOCOM, and this could be our big thing. And we're going to put this everywhere. We're going to put it on PC and mobile and PlayStation, and it's going to be massive and free to play or whatever. Maybe that's what's happening here, but right now it does just look like they are fixating on Call of Duty in a way that feels like if the tables were reversed, if everything was flipped, Microsoft would probably just be like, listen, Sony's going to own this thing. It's their thing. We get that. And Sony would be like, yeah, and we are going to make it exclusive. And I know they didn't do that with Destiny, but it definitely feels like something they would probably think of doing with Call of Duty.
100%. Yeah, if the table is the other way, I don't know if Sony would play ball.
Yep. Let's move on here to Blizzard details how Overwatch 2's Battle Pass will unlock new heroes. There was a little bit of Overwatch 2 information. It seems like they moved this stuff up a little bit because there was some talk among fans about concerns with regards to how you unlock characters in Overwatch 2. This comes from Mike Minotti at GamesBeat. Overwatch 2 is abandoning its predecessor's premium price and loot box model for a free-to-play system. This means that the base version of the player versus player experience will be free, but Blizzard will charge for certain items and premium battle passes. The latter has caused some anxiety in the Overwatch community, especially once players learn that heroes will appear on the battle pass. Before, new heroes simply released for everyone at the same time. Now, unlocking them will become the norm when Overwatch 2 launches on October 4th. Blizzard has clarified how this will work. If you purchase the premium version of the Battle Pass, you'll unlock new heroes immediately. If you're just progressing through the free path, you can unlock heroes once you reach tier 55. Once the season ends, you can still just outright buy heroes that you missed from the in-game shop. You can also unlock them for free by completing special challenges. So, this isn't exactly as terrible as it might have sounded when people weren't exactly sure how it was going to work, but it definitely still is just flat out. They are trying to get more money from their most dedicated players. Just that's what they're trying to do here. And there are a lot of people who, bought the game up front for what Overwatch was like $40, right? A lot of people bought the game up front and they got every single character that was released, and they played the game for thousands of hours, and they played it so much they were getting loot boxes for free. And it was a system that worked pretty well for the players, but maybe the developer wasn't making as much money as they were hoping to get from Overwatch. So they've remixed things a little bit in a way where the game is now free to play, so you can get that broader audience. But the people who are going to be playing the most, maybe they should be, or maybe the developer thinks they should be paying the most as well. And that seems to be what's happening. So it's not terrible, but they are finding ways to maybe extract more money from the most dedicated players, and that might be a little bit of a bummer for people.
Yeah, most definitely. I know Lucy and Tam played it and maybe continue to play an obscene amount of Overwatch that they'd be able to just learn or earn loot boxes. And in my head, tier 55 doesn't sound too bad.
Right.
Then I also don't remember how the leveling system in Overwatch 2 or Overwatch 1 worked, where how long are those levels, and is your progress boosted if you had the premium battle pass versus the free path? How much is the free to play player hindered in their progress? Also, how many characters are unlocked from the get-go even?
Right. I would imagine there's going to be a lot unlocked from the get-go, and it's all going to be the new players or the new characters that are going to be locked away.
Yeah.
And this is a franchise that the big things usually when they release new stuff are those characters. So there's going to be a lot of pressure, people are going to feel when something new comes out, and okay, I'm going to have to pony up the cash and buy this. And, it's by the time, if you've been playing consistently for a couple of years, the price tag for the game for you, if you're going to unlock everything, and you're not, and you don't have enough time to play every single, day or whatever, it's probably going to be more than $40 over time. And that's the idea. But there are already a lot of characters in this game, so you're right. Maybe there's there won't be much need to try to get the newest one right away, but a lot of people will show up for that. I know a lot of people really like the way Apex Legends does the characters. Is this pretty similar? I guess I haven't played much Apex Legends, but if anyone in chat plays some Apex Legends, is this similar to the way they do things, or what is the difference there? And you want to shoot it to me,
right.
I'll pop that in here as we keep going. But I'm showing the trailer now. The new trailer for Overwatch Season 2 looks pretty cool. I also don't know if I'm going to play much of it. I played a lot of Overwatch. I really enjoyed it. But I fell off, and this still mostly looks like Overwatch. And so I'm like, maybe I am at a point where I will just keep going back to Fortnite. Or maybe even Call of Duty. I don't know if I need Overwatch.
Yeah, I don't know if I need Overwatch either. And I played a good chunk of Overwatch for a hot minute. I think I'd more so be ready to come back to Apex Legends, if not dipping back into Fortnite or Splatoon currently. Yeah, I don't. I think the part about Overwatch 2 is that it's intimidating because it looks virtually the same as Overwatch 1, and
Hmm.
I know that there are those diehards out there that are ready to make the switch, or people that are much more skilled than I am at the hero shooter. So it's incredibly intimidating to think about even getting back into that sphere. And of course, when it releases, there's going to be a lot of people at the very bottom of the skill level, similar to me. Um, but I just don't know how much longer I will stay in.
Yeah, I want to read these three chats. First one's from Hail Adilos. You just buy Apex characters in the shop. And then Bogart says Apex also has a currency specifically for characters that you can grind. But then Psychus points out Apex Legends doesn't have hard character counters, though. And that's like, yes, like there are different character classes in Apex Legends, but it's not exactly the same thing where Overwatch is very much about matching up your teams. And if this team has that
Right.
character, you need this character. And that maybe might put you in situations where you feel the need to unlock more characters more quickly. So maybe there's a little bit more pressure there, but otherwise it does sound like it works pretty similarly to how Apex Legends works, at least in terms of once the season, the free battle pass that you can unlock the character from is over, you can still go to the shop and buy it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, what else are you thinking?
the other thing is, Dr. Randall points this out. It does remind me of like how League of Legends was when I started playing, where it's a rotating pool of free characters,
Yeah.
and then if there's a specific character you like, you just go buy that character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if Blizzard can't do loot boxes, they're gonna find a different way to make money, man.
Yeah, exactly. And and people really hate loot boxes, but that doesn't mean that the new model of doing things that they're going to come up with is going to be perfect. There's going to be, and I do remember, while people point to Apex Legends being a very good way of doing the character unlocks, apparently, I mean, people have been very mad about the cosmetic unlocks and how much they've cost and how much they cost in Apex Legends and things like that. So there's probably more headaches and heartache to come for Overwatch 2 when it comes to how its economic system is going to work.
Yeah.
Hideo Kojima teases VR thing on Twitter. He posted a picture of himself inside a Meta Quest 2, an Oculus Quest 2, whatever it's called. And he said, doing the final check of KJP, which is Kojima Productions VR, that we are going to show at Tokyo Game Show 2022. Thumbs up emoji, hard eyes emoji, phone emoji, rocket ship emoji. And he says, so he's say, oh, I'm teasing this VR thing, and everyone's like, oh, is he working on a VR game? It's actually probably nothing too major like that. I found a story from Games Radar from a month ago.
Oh.
Where they write, Hideo Kojima's studio will host a VR space at Tokyo Game Show. As announced earlier on August 16th, the Death Stranding developer will be appearing at the Tokyo Game Show in a pretty special capacity. According to the tweet, Tokyo Game Show will host a virtual reality space alongside the physical show next month in September, and Kojima Productions will be involved with the exhibition in some way. But then the story goes on to say some of the responses to the Twitter announcement are a little confused, so it's worth stating that this absolutely isn't the reveal of a VR game from the studio. Kojima Productions is simply taking part in the VR aspect of the Tokyo Game Show, in addition to the physical show floor, where showgoers can purchase items for their merchandise booth. So it sounds like it's going to be just a VR experience. So while Kojima Productions is at Tokyo Game Show, it's not necessarily because they're showing off some new game. I know some people are like, maybe they're showing off Overdose, the horror game that everyone thinks is probably the one that's coming to Xbox, although I don't know and can't confirm. And then he showed this VR thing. Well, like, I guess he's got a VR game coming as well. Doesn't seem like it's even that. I don't know, but a VR experience from Hideo Kojima still sounds like something I'm interested in. How about you, Jan?
Yeah, even if it was a walking simulator and just going down a hallway. Well, okay,
Yeah.
maybe not going down a hallway.
Not another hallway.
But like a curated Hideo Kojima experience of just walking through like a museum exhibit or whatever, I think would be cool. I don't know. I'd really like to listen to the dude's ethos on game design or just his approach to things. And
Good
if
news
it's
for
just
you. On the Spotify app, you can get the Hideo Kojima Experience, Structured Brain, or whatever he calls it, where he goes into that in not much detail, but he does talk about that stuff a little bit. Have you listened to that at all yet?
No. I'm waiting for someone to post to Twitter whenever he does like a Blue Chew ad. I need it to happen.
I hope this is just a Hideo Kojima simulator, and it is you walking down a hallway, but you're just greeted by like Mads Mikkelsen and
Guillermo del Toro.
And they're just like, I loved your latest game. Good work. You did such a good job. I can't wait to play your next. What are you working on next? And then you just go to the next celebrity and the next celebrity, and yeah, that's his life.
It's like that Key and Peele Obama sketch where he's just like going down the line and shaking hands, kissing people.
Yes,
just Hideo and all his celebrity friends.
And Jeff Keighley's there, and just get in there for that big hug, and then yeah, absolutely. Halo Studio 343 is reportedly losing another member of its leadership team. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Halo Studio 343 Industries is reportedly set to lose another member of its leadership team in the shape of engineering director David Berger. That's according to a Lords of Gaming report corroborated by Windows Central sources. Former FASA Interactive developer Berger has been with 343 for over 14 years and at Microsoft for over 20. If accurate, Berger's exit from 343 will follow that of Bonnie Ross, who announced on Monday that she's stepping down after 15 years in charge of the studio in order to attend to a family medical issue. Ross is also leaving Microsoft after more than 28 years in gaming at the company. Coinciding with the announcement of her departure, Microsoft said it had restructured 343's leadership team. 343's former head of production, Pierre Heinz, has taken on the role of studio head. Brian Kosky, who previously headed up marketing for Halo, is set to become GM of the franchise, while business, operations, and esports head Elizabeth Van Wyck will oversee business and operations. So we talked about the story of Bonnie Ross leaving earlier this week, and we did what you're supposed to do, which is give the benefit of the doubt when someone says they're leaving for medical reasons. Obviously, though, in her statement, she also noted she made it sound like she was intending to leave anyhow later this year or early next year. Microsoft is cleaning house, right, for 343. It's. I mean, after if this Berger story is accurate, which it seems like it is, and they announced a restructuring of the leadership, this is them saying the state of Halo Infinite is not acceptable, right?
Yeah, I mean, you see this across multiple industries when a project or something isn't shaping up, or they at least see in the forecast that a big change is coming, whether it is cleaning house or
people just getting out of the way of leaving themselves.
Leaving on their own accord. Like this happens a lot of the time, and I'm sure that I forget her name, Bonnie Ross being at the top of 343 can see that change is coming, whether it's good or bad change. So if she was already preparing for leaving, I'm sure other members of the leadership team also would be in communication about that. So they would perhaps be making plans to leave as well.
Yeah.
It's not shocking. It just stinks for everyone else at 343 that may not be in a position to leave as easily as people at the top.
Yes. And this probably isn't the end of the departures. We'll see. But if it is, this is the time when something like this was probably overdue. If the cadence of releases for updates to Halo wasn't going to improve, I think maybe it speaks. We could try to read the tea leaves here. We'll do it a little bit. We honestly don't know what all this means, but the director of engineering leaving the studio, I mean, to me, that's like someone assessed the situation and was like, we are going to have to completely rework our tool set and what we've done for making Halo stuff happen. And we might need to bring someone else in. You're right. And that either means like asking Berger to leave or Berger leaving of his own accord. But something did need to happen with Halo. It's a series Microsoft's not going to give up on. They're not going to stop like, oh, we'll take a couple year break. Halo Infinite is supposed to be a 10-year game. They're going to keep hammering away trying to force that to happen. And but doing that again with the same team after a decent launch turned into kind of a disastrous support period, and with no end in sight to that like sort of disaster. And it has been one mess up after another over there. Maybe it's time to bring in some fresh eyes anyhow. It also, we also get the sense a lot of times when we talk about what happens over at Microsoft Studios that they get free reign, right? And there's not a lot of consequences, but they're also treated pretty well. And so, they get to avoid crunch a lot of the time. And so, the idea is, they want to keep working at Microsoft, so they're going to do good work. And that's been true for a lot of games over at Microsoft. They put out a lot of good stuff over the last several years. It's just in this one instance, it seemed like things just were too big. They got out of hand and they couldn't bring things back in. And so now they have another chance with a new team at the head to try to make that happen. All that said, I'm still pretty skeptical that they're going to be able to turn Halo Infinite around in any sort of fast manner. Like, we're probably going to be talking maybe in 2 years. Like, things are feeling pretty good. I don't think in the next year we're going to be sort of thinking that way.
No, I can't immediately see like 6 months to a year. My current opinion on Halo Infinite changing, even with Forge Mode eventually releasing. I could see them pulling a No Man's Sky eventually, but that even took that team, which was a much smaller team as well, several years to change public perception as well. So I hope the studio can do it, because hey, Halo Infinite, it was a great game when it came out, really had its grip around me, and then just lost touch with it. Just lost interest in it completely, and all my friends just stopped playing it.
Yep. I'm ideally for me, they would be putting out a lot of maps here pretty soon. They would be highlighting every cool thing that is happening in the Forge in a really aggressive way, where they're like, no, we are putting this front and center. This is just part of the game now. We've worked it out with these Forge creators, and the top ones are going to maybe get some money or whatever, and we are going to make it. This is Halo. This is just part of the game. It's not just some side thing you're going to have to go find on your own. Everyone needs to be playing this. And so we're going to put it on a playlist that is like one button press away, and you're going to be in there and everyone's going to be playing it. They should do that. And then they need to just maybe add a few extra things to that single player campaign, so that when I go in there to play co-op and we're treating it like a sandbox, we have more possibilities for just this play space to surprise us in new and interesting ways. I already think it's going to be a pretty good time. But if they start adding stuff to it, that creates the possibility for so much more, and that's what I want.
I just worry that in this change in leadership, that the water is just going to get muddier and muddier, and that direction just maybe all over the place versus more focused on what needs to be currently completed, whatever that is for Halo Infinite.
Yep. Hopefully the new leadership and and the people above them, the people like at Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, everyone else can come, and Sarah Bond can come in there and be like, listen, we still believe in this team. We see the hard work you have done. Things, a lot of this probably actually isn't your fault. So just keep doing your work the way you have been doing. We still want to give you mostly free reign, but we're just resetting expectations. And we're resetting the timeline for when things are going to come out, and we're going to work together on this stuff. And hopefully they can create an environment where cool stuff can still happen with Halo. That has been the biggest problem, is over the last few months, it just feels like the morale probably on the team has soured. The morale of the community has gone completely bad, though. And it's probably pretty hard to work in such an environment. So hopefully they can reset that and go from scratch and do something cool with Infinite.
Yeah, I almost worry that, It's been a very messy launch for Infinite. So I don't know. Maybe I know I just said that the change in leadership would make the waters muddier, but perhaps change in leadership or overall structure might be beneficial. Halo Infinite got delayed initially.
Yeah.
And then there was that fiasco with that certain skin that was poorly named.
Mm-hmm.
And that was stuff that just fell through the cracks with current 343. So maybe
it was just one of those things. Yeah, if it was just one of those things or two of those things, it's like, okay. But there was a series of boneheaded moves and mistakes. And then on top of that, the game's just not in a great place in terms of attracting players. It's a free-to-play game. It's one of the biggest games to ever launch. And people don't care and don't want to talk about it and don't want to play it. And people in chat, I'm a huge Halo fan, and even I'm over it. Says it's a me. So it's... you can't be that. You cannot be in that. Things have to change, and it seems like they're going to try.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Xbox PC app is adding How Long to Beat integration. I love this. I think this is such a cool thing. So this comes from the Xbox blog post on the Xbox Newswire. We partnered with How Long to Beat for a unique feature that makes it even easier to pick your next PC game. Beginning today, you can view estimates for how long it will take you to complete a game in the game details page for most PC Game Pass games. How Long to Beat is a community-driven website that specializes in game lengths. If you're in the mood for something you could crush in a day or two, or maybe looking for your next long-term game, you could view the details for the game to help you decide what to download and play next. They will show the categories for how long it takes to beat a main story, how long the main story and additional quests, medals, and unlockables takes, and the 100% completionist thing, as well as the combined all play styles considered during estimation. So I use How Long to Beat all the time. I think a lot of people do. Having it just built into the functionality of an app is brilliant. I want to just like see the numbers right there. Like they, sometimes I think like Plex like has Metacritic stuff there, and I just in Rotten Tomatoes, and so I could just go through my Plex server and be like, I want to watch a good movie right now. Just see the rating right there. Bringing in that sort of stuff is very cool. I wonder if it works the other way, and I don't think they mentioned this, and if they did, maybe I might have just missed it, but will How Long to Beat be gathering information from the people who are playing on Xbox Game Pass PC now? Like, is the API going to serve them data so they can more accurately tell people how long games are taking people to beat?
Perhaps that'd be cool if they'd be able to get access to that set of tools on How Long to Beat side. But I use that website all the dang time.
Yep.
Not even for like modern games only. Just like, hey, how long was this game? I just want to fire it up, just see what it was like. Yeah, this seems like a no-brainer. This reminds me though of the poor integration that PlayStation had with the tips feature.
Yes, definitely.
Where it's like, hey, we're gonna have this hint here for folks to get stuck. This is good. Everyone's gonna be using it.
Yep.
And
that
then
stuff was like buried and I never ever saw it or whatever. That's the one they removed, right? Tips.
I was gonna ask, is that? I'm pretty sure they removed tips, right?
They removed something like they removed accolades. They removed accolades, which was the thing where I played a game with you and I could send you, hey, good shooting, Tex, or whatever. And that's that. But tips also I never use, and I don't know anyone who does use them from there. Like you still just go on your phone and you go to GameFAQs or whatever. And that's the that it's just silly crud getting added to the UI, and hopefully this isn't that, but it's information that I know I want.
Yeah,
and I also know how easy it is to display it, so I'm expecting this to be not too invasive in terms of like cluttering up the UI. And when I do see it, it's probably because I want to see it and I want to know how long a game's going to take me.
Yeah. Also, yeah, it's just fun having all that little data on the side as well. Just love having it.
And then let's see. Tales of Symphonia Remaster somehow only runs at 30 frames per second on all new consoles. Imran Khan was tweeting about this, and he wrote, so it's now confirmed that Tales of Symphonia Remaster runs at 30 frames per second, which means that the only official way to play Tales of Symphonia at 60 frames per second is on the GameCube. The PS2, PS3, PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch versions do not run at 60 frames per second. He went on to say, and this sounds right, I believe the logic for this is that the PS2 version ran that low to make concessions for the port, but that's the only version they have the source code for anymore, so every version after is just based on that. It also had more content, but like, come on now. This is frustrating. Just like fix it, do the work. If this is the only one you have access to the source code, go in the source code and make it run at 60 instead. It ran on 60 on the GameCube. This is wild. Or just go port the GameCube, ISO and have it run in an emulator or something like that. And I guess they want the extra content, but honestly, most people are going to prefer 60 frames per second over that extra content.
Yeah. My homies, now that all of them have PS5s or now like at least a gaming laptop, they're noticing frame rates more. And when they go back to these other titles on the PS4, even that were only 30 max or like on a Switch, they're like, what is this garbage? Why did we put up with this?
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, bros.
I'm so
Just
here
wait till
for everyone realizing how trash the last generation of consoles were in terms of hardware capabilities. It was, we had to fool ourselves because we were all still like really looking forward to having some cool games, and a lot of cool games came out for the PlayStation 4. But man, that hardware was rough, and we are getting treated right now because the hardware is so good, and development's still catching up, and they don't want to spend extra money. So like, we could just make the games run at 60. We should just do that. And yes, everyone is noticing, and that makes a big difference. And so it's like something like this happens. It's very frustrating. It's kind of no reason other than they don't want to do the work. And I don't know how hard it would be, but I do know that 30 frames is worse than 60 frames. It just is. So this is a worse version of a game that came out on the GameCube 20 years ago. So what do you want me to do about that? You can either do the work to fix that, or I'm just going to keep saying that. This is worse than a GameCube game.
It's unfortunate because I'm sure the people most interested in this probably already have the means to play it or have played it in the past and just want an updated version of it that's easier to play. But if they have the GameCube version, that is still the better version to play because it runs better. Oof.
Woof, indeed. All right, let's get to the catch-up. And someone, Funkadoodle in chat says, new Deathloop with extended ending update just dropped. We heard that something like that was going to happen. If someone could drop a link in chat for me while I do this story from the catch-up real quick. Assassin's Creed Odyssey joins Xbox Game Pass today. Assassin's Creed Odyssey will be made available with Xbox Game Pass today, Microsoft has confirmed. The announcement was made on Thursday during Xbox's Tokyo Game Show live stream, which seems like was mostly this level of announcement. The other thing that they talked about, I think, was Deathloop. Deathloop is officially coming to Xbox Game Pass next week on September 20th. Yes, here it is. It will receive a Golden Loop update for all platforms next week, introducing a new weapon, fresh enemies, and upgrades, an extended ending, and cross-platform matchmaking. So I might be interested in going back to some Deathloop. I don't know. Well, how about you, Jan?
Yeah. Or I'd be more than willing to hop on a stream with any of the team to experience it from their point of view.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I want to play Deathloop again.
I was actually thinking I do want to actually go give Prey a real chance, another chance. I've started it a couple times now. The last time I started it, I was getting way more into it. So I'm like, no, I need to maybe just sit down and play some Prey. So maybe that'll be my next game I start streaming, because I'm into that studio more and more. Especially Deathloop was my access into what they do. Because for Deathloop, for me, and for the immersive sim genre, it was always, I feel kind of stupid. I feel like this game is giving me all these possibilities, and so you go into the world, and if you could be really creative, and you could, you'll jump up there, and you could set up this one thing so that the guy trips over this, and it sets off a trap, and that attracts someone else, and you have this other trap set up, and then you jump on top of them, and it's okay, yeah, that's cool. I'm just gonna put some boxes on top of one another and hop over a fence and try to shoot them. And I feel like a little clown running into a room, like, I'm attacked. And so what Deathloop did is it enabled me to go through one pass, learn the stage as a little baby clown, and then the next time I could be noticing all these things, be like, oh, the next time I'm here, I should try that. And then the next time I do get to try that, and it was like, oh, this is the right way for my brain to actually work these things out. And now that I'm like more used to the design ethos of all this, I think I could apply some of that creativity on a first pass more readily. So like, I should go back to Prey and actually give it a try. But that's why Deathloop worked for me. And now a bunch of people on Xbox are going to get a chance to play it, and there is more. Yeah. There's new content and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Also, I'm sure it's going to be great with that hitting Game Pass and then the invasion feature. People will be able to much more readily jump into that. That
feature's very good. That invasion stuff, a good multiplayer mechanic.
Really cool. And unfortunately, after the initial release boom, it was very hard to find a match to get into.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just didn't fall in love with the loop of Deathloop, and something similar to a Hitman, or just Hitman straight up, is more enticing to me versus Deathloop.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Me too overall. But I really liked Deathloop. I just was expecting more Hitman. And then I'm like, well, I could just go play Hitman. So I will go do that instead. And I went back and actually played a lot of Hitman after Deathloop.
That being said, like I have nothing problem with like the overall aesthetics and the art style of Deathloop. That part is very enticing. I loved the voice acting in it. The literal loop of the game, I got bored of.
Yeah, it is much more linear and structured than I even thought as I was going through it. I was really appreciating being able to be more creative on other loops, but the overall meta structure, it seemed like it was being forced down a funnel, and I think that's the way it does work. And I think I learned later there is some stuff you can do to change that. And I'm like, that's one of the reasons I am curious about going back. I'm like, I wonder if I could make the game feel very different than before. And if I can't, oh well. I definitely know there's some things on the maps themselves that I wanted to try and I never did. And I'm like, maybe I'll go back and have another go at all that. Okay. Level 5's Ni no Kuni series is officially coming to Xbox. Level 5's Ni no Kuni series, published by Bandai Namco, was announced Thursday to be coming to Xbox. That's starting with Wrath of the White Witch, the first one, which is available today on Xbox Series X and S, as well as Xbox One, and via Xbox Game Pass. This was announced also during the Tokyo Game Show. Part 2 of the Level 5 RPG, which features animation from Studio Ghibli, will be released for the Xbox platform sometime in 2023, Bandai Namco said. I've never played a Ni no Kuni. My understanding is, in the second game, you play as the President of the United States, a nuclear bomb goes off, you get zapped over into an anime thing with a gun, and then it doesn't really do much with that. And that sounds like the greatest setup in the world, and then not following through on that is very frustrating to me. And so I was just like kind of shaking my head from a distance, looking over like, how dare you do something so cool and not actually end up following up on that. Have you played any of the Ni no Kunis, Jan?
I really like both Ni no Kunis. You actually, that was like, you might as well have been reading from the official wiki of that game because you nailed it, buddy. Huh. I really like Ni no Kuni because they're also very pretty games. You know, they're Studio Ghibli inspired.
Yes, they're gorgeous.
However, I think the mobile game has really soured me on the whole franchise.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
And just how predatory and scummy that game wound up being. No. I don't think I have any interest in checking out Ni no Kuni anything for a very long time. And that's unfortunate. But hey, you know, the first one, I know Matthew Rory, I believe Matthew Rory really liked the first one a lot. So check that one out at least. The second one, the President plot.
My understanding is the second one does have some gameplay improvements and it's much more streamlined. Yeah. People do like that. But hey, I mean, the first one's available now on Game Pass. You could just try it and see if it's your thing.
Try it, man.
At the very least, probably going to be very pretty on a big screen. Like a lot of people have like OLEDs these days, so I bet it's going to look really good on your big OLED or whatever. Cool. So check that out. Other Game Pass titles that were announced, and also Valheim was dated during an indie game showcase on Wednesday. And Microsoft confirmed that Valheim will hit PC Game Pass on September 29th. It was previously confirmed that Valheim would be coming to Xbox Game Pass for consoles in spring of 2023. On Wednesday, Skybound announced plans to bring 4 titles to Microsoft's subscription service, which are shown off in the trailer below. That included Big Con, Rainbow Billy, and Walking Dead, which will arrive this year, followed by Homestead Arcana in 2023. I think I had the trailer here. I actually don't have it to show right now, though. Other Game Pass titles showcased during today's Xbox presentation included Gamera Games' Amazing Cultivation Simulator. I think there might have been some extra farming games happening that weren't even in the Nintendo Direct. Humble Games' Moon Scars, Versus Evil's Evile, and Graffiti Games' Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. So, a bunch of indie games. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion was one I really liked, a little bit I played of it. I want to go back to it. I'm glad that we are getting more in the Turnip Boy cinematic universe.
Fantastic. I was worried that Turnip Boy had rotted away, but I'm glad that he's thriving.
This turnip don't rot. You'll never take him alive. And now he's going to rob some banks, and I love it. All right, Jan, let's get to the poll here. I have this to say to all of you. Which showcase did you enjoy more, Nintendo or PlayStation? And I was just trying to take your temperature, your own personal feelings on this. 47.2% said Nintendo, 52.8% said PlayStation. I think this is I think I was actually expecting maybe a little bit more in PlayStation's favor, but I'm glad it's split because that's actually how I feel. I'm pretty split. I like them both pretty equally for different reasons. Being surprised by Pikmin 4, seeing Fire Emblem, and that being so good, that definitely worked for me. I think Tears of the Kingdom as a name is really growing on me, and I just love that game has got a date now. That all worked. And then the PlayStation stuff was like mostly surprising because I had my expectations set really low. Did you have a favorite among these, or were you kind of split too?
I think I'm pretty split too. I'm not the biggest Zelda fan, but I think I'm excited to get a date and eventually know that this game is coming out. I also want to hear publicly state that I need, because you collect a bunch of random garbage in Breath of the Wild. I need that to continue into Tears of the Kingdom so we can just start saying, I got all these tchotchkes and totki. Or Totke. Damn it, doesn't work. Totke. Dang it. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make it work. But in the PlayStation State of Play, we got a Yakuza, that God of War trailer I've watched several times now.
It's a good trailer. It is so good. It's like a masterclass in getting people excited for something, getting excited for a sequel, like following up on plot threads, and also showing off a bunch of new stuff while also making promises that there's even better stuff in the game than this.
Yeah.
Ooh, it looked good.
For folks curious as to what I was trying to make with tchotchkes and totki, hey, we've learned already that I have an interesting command of the English language, right? But yeah, the God of War trailer, Atreus shooting the moon and causing an eclipse. I caught the tail end of the discussion with Jordan yesterday. If they're willing to show this much, that must mean there's an obscene amount.
I think so.
Waiting to be seen.
That's kind of what they're trying to suggest too when they talk about like that trailer, and the developers have been like a little bit hinting on social media that they say there's so much more you haven't even seen. And because this is the end of the duology, this is the end of this arc, you would expect them to be like, no, we had to go all out here. And the implications of that get me excited, even as someone who didn't finish God of War 2018 and wasn't super interested in ever doing so. So it's like, I don't know. This just looks like it's really dramatic. It looks like they've got, from the trailer, who knows? From the trailer is all I have to base it on. It looks like it's well paced out, and it's just going to be one cool thing after another. And if that's the way it actually, ends up being, I'm probably actually going to be much more into this one than even the first one. So at least that's my hope. That's my hope coming out of that. That Stellar Drive or whatever, it was the Project Eve game. What do you think of that one? Yeah.
It looked cool. It looked really like new CG wet.
Yes,
looking.
Exactly. Yes. Where like you would get almost a new studio, like a new CG animation studio would put this out as like one of their reels to show, hey, we have command of all of these new techniques to make things look wet. And it's like maybe there's no restraint to it. Maybe that's like evidence that there's not a lot of restraint in terms of their creative choices. Part of that is though really charming. Where I'm like, I look at that and like, oh yeah, don't have restraint. Just go out, like make your characters wet as hell. Make them like sort of beautiful as well, and have this awesome music and have the combat just be as dramatic as possible too. It's I don't know. I'm kind of into its style, even though it feels like all style. Just pour on the style meter as much as possible. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't had a lot of AAA titles or games positioned as AAA titles to just like ooze as much style as possible, and just be sopping wet.
Yes,
in style.
Exactly. We had some sopping wet roads for a few years, and now we haven't been getting much of that lately. So someone's got to make up for it. Now we got these oily ladies in a Korean game. Hell yeah. And then what do you think about the God of War?
Hear a complaint from me with that sentence, man.
I'm sure there's a subreddit somewhere we can get into. What do you think about the God of War controller? Are you going to get a new controller for your PlayStation?
Absolutely not.
Well, that brings me to the question for today. Actually, no, I'm not going to do this as a reply. How many controllers do you own for your main gaming device? I got curious about this. Because I was counting mine, and then I actually stopped counting before I got to how many I have in total. But like for Xbox, I probably have like something like 10 if you combine the Xbox One and Xbox Series X controllers. And PlayStation 4 and 5, it's probably somewhere around like 8. But I'd only have one DualSense so far. I'm like, I might be getting a new DualSense soon. We'll see. Game Mess Mornings.
I think I'm like in the stubborn camp of this because I know that my Joy-Cons, both my original set and my partner's set, have been drifting for forever now, and I've refused to fix them or ship them out or buy new ones. So I've just been dealing with the drift. I guess the last time I had multiple controllers for a system was probably the 360 era, mostly because some of them came as gifts.
Right.
And then it's just a really good wireless controller. The wired one also was not half bad. You know what? PS2 as well, though. I had a bunch of like Mad Catz-esque,
Sure, definitely
third-party bad controllers.
Hell yeah, the heyday of the Mad Catz.
Oh, I was talking about my problem with my Joy-Cons yesterday, and someone linked this to me, and they looked pretty interesting. Oh gosh, I think I lost it. Hold that.
Yeah, no worries. See a lot of people saying they have just one controller. A few people are like Marino's got 2 to 3 for the main systems right now. 6 DualShock 4s. So though, wow. Okay.
Cool.
8 Mad Catz GameCube controllers for Dodecalips. Wow. That's the N64. I had like one Nintendo controller, and then the rest were like Blockbuster weird bean looking controllers.
Yeah, someone linked me these Joy-Con controllers, Binbok, Binbok. They got LEDs on them, and apparently they still have they have a turbo button, and the grip is a little nicer on them.
That's it's pretty similar to what I'm rocking right now. These have LEDs in them. They just lit up.
Oh,
they're from Nexigo. I bet it's made in the same factory.
It's
at the very least,
the same factory.
And it's got the grip, and it's got the back buttons.
Those look nice.
And it's in there pretty securely. And it's pretty comfortable. I like them. And the HD rumble is fine in it. It's, it's a little bit aggressive, like every sort of Nintendo controller or Nintendo Switch add-on. I think the sticks are pretty good and the buttons are fine. It feels a little bit hollow because it's cheap plastic, but other than that, it's been nice. And I actually ended up liking this more than just putting a grip onto the Switch and holding it that way. But yeah. All right, Jan, what do we have going on this week? Rest of the week.
Rest of the week, got another Game Mess Morning tomorrow. Later today, we've got the voicemail dump truck. We also will push the Splatoon 3 quick look live to right before the dump truck.
That's right.
After this, I may check out some Disney stuff. I may check out the Valley of the Dreams.
And after I get some food, I might just burst back on here and ask for your help, get me some Fortnite levels so I can get my Darth Vader.
Yeah. Hey, they're both on Epic, and then I'm willing to do just need, you know what? I may ask Jessica to solicit voicemails this week for me. So I just have all the time in the world then.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then I may chat with folks if you hang out after this and need y'all to talk me off the cliff of purchasing a camera.
I think that's a great idea because chat will totally be very responsible with your money. I can't wait to see that.
Yes.
All right, Jan. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking video game news. I always appreciate it, man.
I love it. I feel smarter every Thursday.
And everybody, thank you for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. I always appreciate you as well. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.